and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 557, and today's date is January 4th, 2015, and the title of this episode is The Current Economic Collapse News Brief. Let's get right into the economic collapse news. Now, we understand that Europe is having a very rough time. A lot of the countries are in a depression, some are in a recession, and some are teetering on a recession. The same thing here in the United States. Even though they're trying to convince us we are in a recovery, we know from everything that we've been looking at is we are in a recession heading towards that Great Depression. We actually never got out of that Great Recession of 2008. They just covered it up and put Scotch tape on it. And what happens is during this time period, we see a lot of countries being, they brought on a lot of debt. They had to impose austerity on the people, and we saw unemployment, youth unemployment, skyrocket. Now, since these people aren't working, they're not bringing in revenue to the government to pay for this interest on the debt. And since they're not bringing in revenue, the governments have to take out more debt to cover the interest payments. So a lot of countries started taxing the people who are working more, a higher percentage. And we see right now that France, yes, they imposed a super tax, 75% on the wealthy. And they thought, this will solve our problems. This will bring in the revenue we need to support the country. But what happened was the wealthy looked at this. They complained, of course, and they said, you know what? You want to put 75% super tax on us? We're just going to move our assets. We're going to move our businesses. We're going to move our residents outside of the country. How do you like that? Now you'll have no revenue coming in. And this tax actually didn't help the government of France, didn't help the country. It didn't bring in the revenue they thought they were going to bring in. And right now, without a lot of fanfare, they're just going to let it expire February 1st because it didn't work. Actually, they probably lost a lot more money than they thought they were going to get because a lot of these businesses, a lot of the wealthy, left the country. And we can see all throughout these private Western central bank countries, they're taxing the people more and more. We see it here in the United States with Obamacare and other programs. They're continually taxing because they need the revenue coming into the government. Look at FATCA. The United States government had to go across into all the other countries to look for more revenue, to find the revenue, because there wasn't enough inside the country, and that's why they did this. And we see the United States government, the central bankers, and Saudi Arabia have been suppressing oil prices, bringing it down, trying to spur economic growth inside the countries. And this is actually not working as well as they thought. And again, this is used for many different agendas. They were trying to boost up the holiday season to see if they can get retail going again, to see if they can get people taking their money and purchasing autos, taking their money, purchasing real estate, taking their money and going out to the stores, but I don't think it worked whatsoever. The other agenda is to hit those countries like Venezuela, Russia, North Korea, any of these countries that depend on oil. And we can see Russia, they've been suppressing the oil prices, trying to destroy the economy of Russia, trying to have a regime change inside of Russia. And we see the ruble has gotten hit. It has decreased in value. It has been pumped up once again. But the oligarchs inside Russia, they're nervous. They're worried. What happens if their paper currency goes and is devalued once again and continually drops? So what they're doing, just like every other wealthy central banker, they take, and every person should be doing, they should take their paper currency and put it into hard assets. And this is what the people of Russia are doing right now. They're protecting themselves. This is what the central bankers do. They go into a country, they put them into debt, and they steal their natural resources. They take the hard assets of the country. The same thing here in the United States. Those people, yes, here, take the paper currency. We don't want it. We're buying up land. We're buying up gold. We're buying up silver. You're putting your money into hard assets. You're protecting your wealth. And this is what every single person should be doing. You should not be depending on paper currency, because you know eventually what's going to happen. The paper currencies will be devalued, especially the US dollar. Eventually it will collapse, because we can see that they're fighting to keep this dollar going across the globe. They're losing control of the Middle East. They're maneuvering military assets into Africa, and they're doing everything they possibly can to prop up the dollar, and it's getting tougher and tougher as time goes on. And this is why they've been provoking all of these countries continually. They're trying to start war to cover up this collapse because, hey, they do not want to be blamed whatsoever. Now, Russia is building a train that will zip people from Moscow to Beijing in just 48 hours. Right now, it takes about 7 days to commute between the two cities, and it looks like they're proposing to build this high-speed railway that will do this for them. And you can see that Russia and China, they're becoming very close. They're part of the BRIC system, which goes live 2015. And we can see right now the United States government, the central bankers, are trying to have a regime change in China. They're trying to have a regime change in Russia. They're trying to stop this BRIC system going live in 2015. And we also have to remember the IMF is going to look at the yuan renminbi in 2015 to see if it is possible to have this as a reserve currency. And of course, as we know, the central bankers of the United States government are going to try to stop this. They're going to try to veto this. They're going to do whatever they possibly can to stop this from happening. Now, we see out in Indonesia, there are warnings coming out of the U.S. saying, and this is coming out of the embassy in Jakarta, has issued a warning to Americans about a potential threat against U.S. associated banks and hotels in Indonesia. The alert was issued to U.S. citizens on Saturday without giving details of why this is occurring right now. But when we look at the situation, we understand that Indonesia might be joining the BRIC nations. They might be allying with China, and it looks like the United States does not want this to happen whatsoever. I'm going to do a little bit more research to see what's going on in this area, but this alert came out, and it seems like it's the same as all the other alerts in Sudan, in Mali, in the Middle East. It seems there's an agenda there, and it doesn't want this country to cozy up to China or Russia, or there could have been oil discovered in this area. Now, it looks like Lithuania has joined the euro right now. It looks like Estonia, Latvia, and now Lithuania is part of the Baltic Euro region right now. And we can see right now they're building this whole area up. Military assets are being maneuvered into this area. And, of course, the Eurozone is hoping that this will boost the euro. It will help out Lithuania. But as we know, every time the euro gets into any one of these countries, it's all going to start falling apart. Look where the euro is right now. They have a huge amount of debt in France, Spain, Portugal, Greece, Cyprus. It's spreading to Germany, to UK. Everything is getting worse. They're bringing on another country. It's not going to help. They want to have Ukraine join the euro. And all we're seeing is any place these private Western central bankers get their hands on, it seems like these countries go into deep, deep debt, and the people suffer for it. Now, out in Ukraine, we see the OSCE is reporting that there has been multiple ceasefire violations. Kiev has been firing upon the Donetsk area, and the OSCE is out there reporting that, yes, they have violated the ceasefire. And again, Ukraine does not want peace. And it seems like two things are happening in Ukraine right now. We have Poroshenko right now that understands that if he doesn't get these natural resources into the country, like gas, like coal, and if he doesn't support these people, he's going to have a riot on his hands, and he does not want this to happen, and this is why he's been making deals with Putin. Then we have the banker side, Yatsenyuk and others, who say, you know something, we want the entire country. We did not get what we paid for, and we want it. And we can see right now the Czech president is out there, and he's saying, and this is Czech President Milos Zeman, has slammed Ukrainian Prime Minister Yatsenyuk, calling him a prime minister of war because he is unwilling to peacefully solve the civil conflict in the country. They don't want it solved. They want war. They want to capture the southeastern section. They want Crimea. And we see Poroshenko is making deals with Putin to bring in natural gas, to bring in electricity, to bring in coal. And we can see right now the bankers do not want this to happen. There's a little bit of a conflict right here. And Yatsenyuk he will use force to get what the bankers want, and that is the entire country, because again, they didn't get what they paid for, and they paid for the entire country. Now, out in Iran, we understand the P5+1 talks are continuing, and again, as we know, the United States government does not want this to happen. They don't want the P5+1 talks to go forward. We know Israel doesn't want this to happen. And we can see right now the United States and Israel have been telling the entire world that Iran is going to have a nuclear bomb 3 to 5 months away. And they've been saying this for 30+ years right now, and there has been no nuclear weapon so far. But what we do see is there's been a huge explosion in Iran, and also there has been an assassination attempt on one of the nuclear scientists by the Israeli intelligence service, Mossad. They were trying to hit a nuclear scientist to shut down their nuclear facilities, but it looks like Iran foiled the attempt and pretty much stopped it here. Now, the EU is putting together an expert team to fight the Islamist propaganda, and the European Union intends to put together a team of experts who will assist government officials from the EU member states with tackling Islamist propaganda. Now, we know for a fact basically what they're going to do is they want to control what has been going on here, because they had that beheading of Foley and the other person, and it came out, people looked at the video and said, hey, this is completely fake. There's no blood when he's cutting at the neck. The knives are different, and this is why a lot of the country said, don't look at the video. If you do look at the video, you are a terrorist. They took it down very, very quickly, and all of a sudden this video completely disappeared from YouTube and from every other area, because people were catching on that this was completely staged, it was made up, and right now they're looking to control what is going on and to only publish those things that they want people to see. It was getting out of hand, and we can see they are going to take control of the whole entire area. The EU Commission has also a new directive: advertise in newspapers and media who only tell the government side of the story. Basically, it's what all the private Western Central Bank countries are doing. They take control of the corporate media. They only tell the side of the government, which is using a lot of propaganda. There's no facts involved. Whatever the government puts out there, they use this information. Now, we understand out in the Middle East, things are falling apart rapidly. The people of Libya are taking back their country. And of course, as we know, and we reported many, many times before, the U.S., Israel, Arab nations, UK, they are using the Islamic State. They are a proxy army, and they're going to use this army to get into those countries they need to get back into to replace the people's government with the puppet governments, and they're going to use it to get into those places they need to go, like Syria and Iran. We already see they've been making the case that the Islamic State is in Libya and Lebanon and in Yemen, and they're just spreading this around because these are the countries they need to get back into. They're saying that the Libyan government announced late Saturday that 14 of its soldiers had been killed by the Islamic State, and they are in the country of Libya. And we have to remember, the government of Libya, the puppet government, is on the outskirts of Libya. The people who set up the new parliament and the new government is in Tripoli, and the puppet government is doing whatever they can to get the coalition forces into Libya to get rid of the people's government and bring the puppet government back in. France is out there, and we're seeing warnings already. The French defense minister said on Friday, world powers must tackle the instability in Libya. And we already know that France and the United States have set up bases outside of Libya ready to go at a moment's notice to get into Libya and pretty much get rid of the people's government and put back the puppet government. France could launch a military intervention in Libya within 3 months. And this is coming from an Arab diplomat. Libya is in chaos today and is breeding ground for terrorists who threaten the stability of Niger. And we can see they're using the propaganda, building this up, and Spain is doing the same thing. They are preparing the groundwork for going into Libya. And they will be going into Lebanon. They'll be bringing the forces into Libya, into Lebanon, and into all these countries, because already They've been telling us, and we've been seeing pictures of the Islamic State inside Lebanon, and we can see already that they're saying that the Islamic State is seeking to set up bases inside of Lebanon, so we can see their propaganda is being pushed forward, and this is exactly what is going on. Now, we understand that the United States, Israel, the coalition forces, they support the Islamic State. And there have been shipments, including more than 160 military cargo flights by Jordanian, Saudi, and Qatari military cargo planes landing at the airport, and they've been supplying the Islamic State with weapons. They've been using airdrops to send more weapons to the Islamic State. And we can see already there are unknown aircrafts also dropping weapons for the Islamic State. On Saturday, the Security Committee in the Council of Salahuddin province revealed that the unidentified aircraft dropped weapons and equipment for ISIS southeast of Tikrit, indicating that there are countries that want to keep Iraq under the Islamic State occupation. This is not the first time an unknown aircraft dropped weapons and munitions to the Islamic State, and this is coming from a government official in Iraq. They have noticed this, they have spotted this, that yes, the United States, Israel, UK, and the Arab nations have been supplying the Islamic State with weapons. And we know this, we understand this, and they're doing this because this is the proxy army, and this is what they're going to be using to get into all of these countries. Now, it seems like in Syria, the United States has been trying for a very long time to oust the president of Syria, and this is Assad. And it seems like Russia and Assad have been talking to the rebels, the Free Syrian Army, and they're talking about peace. And now, in Washington, they're looking at the situation and saying, you know something, we can use this to our advantage. And this is what Washington wants right now. They want peace, and they're going to discuss peace, but this is the peace plan. Everywhere the Islamic State was that cleared out the south, east, the northeast, and the areas close to Turkey where they all cleared that out. And there's some places where they're still battling, like in Aleppo and Raqqa, but they cleared this area out. They're going to say that let's split Syria into two right now. And the southeast, the northeast sections of Syria will be Free Syrian Army, and it'll be separate and apart from Assad. This is what they're trying to do right now. So they're trying to separate it, and they're saying Assad can have the northwest, the southwest, Damascus, and that area right now, and he'll have no control and will split the country into two. This is the peace plan that they're trying to use right now, and they're doing this to get a foothold into this area. And of course, those areas that Assad doesn't have right now will just automatically go to the Free Syrian Army, and they will set up a government in this area. And once they do this, they won't have to worry about fighting in this area. They'll just control it, and they won't have to worry about Assad maneuvering his forces into this area, which will make it a lot easier than to hit the rest of the country. And this is exactly what they've been trying to do. Because you have to remember, going back to August 2013, Russia was out there brokering a peace deal and said, listen, all you want is for Assad to get rid of the chemical weapons? Yes, that's all we wanted. We don't want him to have any chemical weapons. And we can see today, no. That is not what they wanted. They want Syria, and they're doing everything they possibly can to get into this area. And this is how they're going to be using the peace talks, which are not really peace talks. It's just a way to maneuver and get part of the country and stop the battling in this area, because they already have it, and it'll make it easier to move into the other section. Now, Russia is also out there saying, listen, we know the United States, UK, other Arab nations are behind the Islamic State. Russia has accused the United States of having patronized the Islamic State radicals to grow into into this terrorist group right now. Russia's Chief of General Staff, Valery Gerasimov, hopefully I pronounced that right, on Wednesday lashed out at the U.S. for being responsible in providing financial and technical assistance to the Islamic State in Syria and elsewhere in the past. So these countries know what's going on. They understand what's going on. They realize that the United States is behind this. And again, they realize eventually they will be going to war. And they've been trying to do everything they possibly can not to head into war. But the U.S. government, the central bankers, are continually provoking them to go to war, and they'll do whatever they possibly can to do this. And we're seeing this with North Korea right now. We understand the cyber attacks had nothing to do with North Korea, but they're using this to place sanctions on North Korea to provoke them. And they're saying that this is step one in their response to North Korea. Well, we already know their cyber attack in North Korea. They brought their internet down. Now they're placing sanctions, and we're going to have to see what their next step is going to be. And North Korea is out there saying that, this is absolutely ridiculous. We had nothing to do with this, and you're placing more sanctions on the country. You're trying to provoke us. And the President of the United States is out there saying, listen, we want international support for these sanctions. We want other private Western central bank countries to join us with placing sanctions on North Korea, just like you did with Russia. So we can see what's going on right now. They're provoking North Korea. They're provoking Russia. They're provoking China, Iran. They're placing sanctions everywhere. They're trying to push war. This is exactly what they have been doing. Now, there is a new warning out there. Intel agencies warn that terrorists may hijack an Air India flight. After receiving an anonymous tip-off, Indian intelligence agencies have warned the Bureau of Civil Aviation that terrorists might immediately target an Air India flight, and airports throughout the country were put on high alert. But what's very interesting about this, and I don't know if everyone remembers, we reported on this once before, that the President of the United States, President Obama, is going to be going to India in January. And all of a sudden, everything is on high alert about something happening inside this country. And again, we have to remember that India is part of the BRIC nations. And again, anything that's part of the BRIC nations, they're trying to break apart, stop it from going live, and they're doing everything they possibly can. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.